cases it does, but it's not the sole motivation for people. If it is, if money was the sole motivation, then all these people would do would be go to the highest bidder. They would take my money, then they go and sell their wares to somebody else. Money is a nice to have, and of course people always want a little extra money, but it can't be the sole motivation. It has to be, you're doing me a service, I'm going to reimburse you for, remunerate your services.
Why were you transferred or leave Paris after 2 years? If you were being were you being impactful there? A.
Yes.
And if
yes.
you were, why were you
yes.
transferred out?
So it was after I was there 1 year, and most of our, all our tours are 2 to 3 years, depending on the location. That's just the way we operate, for a lot of reasons. I think it's important that they get new blood in places, and it also makes the job very exciting. In Paris, my tour was cut short because there was a flap, which was in the news, and it was quite a dramatic event. There were people in the agency that got caught doing what they shouldn't be doing. Poor tradecraft were some of the reasons. It was also because at the time, the French government was in a battle between two political groups. And so they were almost looking at what they could do against the USG to ratchet up their position in the government, in front of for the French people. So we were kind of caught a little bit in a political game in France. Nonetheless, we did have there was some poor tradecraft involved that we were caught on the street. So the French government went to our ambassador and said, any CIA activities need to halt. And so we really had to scale back our office. And I was one of the people that had to leave.
How closely do you work with the ambassador? Does he or she know who you are or what you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ambassador is the representative, the U.S. government's representative in that country. They absolutely have to be in sync with our chief, our office. In every country, the chief of our office will meet regularly with the ambassador. Tell the ambassador what's going on. In some cases, the ambassador may just say, go ahead, do your thing. Let me know if there's any dramatic issues, any important issues, anything that I need to know, anything that would cause me embarrassment, let me know. And or there are ambassadors who say, I want to know everything. I want to know every operation that's going on in my area of operation. Okay, we abide by that. Whatever the ambassador wants, that's what we do. But there's a very close connection because the ambassador has to be able to approve, understand, know what's going on in their territory.
By the time you left, Kyle was on his way, right?
Left Paris, yes.
Yes. Tell us about Kyle.
So he second born, he spent a lot of time with us overseas, obviously. Kyle is a great kid. He is very mature he's now an adult, he's in his late 20s, but he's very mature, understands what's important in life, understands the importance of family. He's devoted to his siblings, devoted to me and his dad, my husband. He makes friends easily, which does cause some consternation when he has to leave. Throughout all our tours, he's made great friends. And after 2 or 3 years, you can imagine, it's tough for these kids, my kids, it was always tough for them to say goodbye, not knowing if they were going to see these people again. An aspect of Kyle and the other kids as well is that they have stayed in touch with people from years past, from around the world. And what's so neat to see and heartwarming for a parent to see is these kids who are now adults reaching out to friends when they're passing through a country and they call up an old friend, they get together. Or someone's passing through the States and they get together. That's kind of a factor of our life with all the kids and with myself and my husband. We have friends around the world. And whenever we're in some vicinity of each other, we get together. And so Kyle took advantage of that.
Ann Butler, how much of your work could you share with Joe, your husband?
Joe, of course, knew where I worked. He knew
CIA.
He knew CIA, absolutely. He knew what I was trying to do, collect intelligence. He knew when I was talking to somebody that I was trying to find out what they knew so that I could learn it and pass the policymakers. When we were at diplomatic receptions, he was right there by my side. He knew why I was there, what I was doing. But he never knew who I was meeting with when I was out at night. He never knew what I was discussing with these people. He never knew what I was discussing at work. He obviously never knew about the operations that we had planned. But he knew how important the mission was as a whole, as the American people should know. I mean, he knew that it was important what I was doing, that it was important to me and it was important to the country. So he 100% supported it. He didn't ask where I was going when I was going out at 11 o'clock at night, or where I had been when I came back at 2 in the morning, or where I was if I had to go several days to a different country. He didn't say, okay, make sure you call and check in. He knew he would have no contact with me, and he was fine with that. So he knew the important parts, but not the details.
Now, just looking back, we're talking now 80s, 90s, correct? And into the 2000s. But you weren't necessarily tracked by your colleagues at that point, correct? Because the technology wasn't there. You were pretty much on your own in many cases. Is that correct?
When you say tracked, you mean by the phone?
Yeah, by your phone or satellite or anything?
It was definitely the older way of doing things. And
so you'd be out there on your own in many ways?
Every time. We always worked on our own. And having communications now is a real hindrance, absolutely. I would not have any phones or communications, and it was easier that way because I knew I wasn't going to be tracked, and I had to rely on my own wits. I couldn't call somebody for help. Something happened, there was a delay or a train delay or a car broke down. You had to take care of it yourself. You couldn't rely on calling somebody for help. Now things are different. I think the way technical surveillance has exploded, there's smartphones, smart everything, smart the biometrics, the technical capabilities that the countries have now to track you. It does inhibit operations. So you're having to figure out how to operate in the gap, in the black, when you're not being watched. How often is that? You've got cameras everywhere. So you have to find that spot where you're not observed, or find ways to obfuscate where you are. It's not easy.
So your train is late. You missed the meeting. Do you have plan B and C?
Yes, absolutely, Peter. It's all about preparation. So we have a plan in place to meet Agent A. And that agent knows if I'm not there, you can't make it, here's our plan B. It'll be a different time, maybe a different day. That meeting doesn't take place. There's another plan C. If everything goes to hell in a handbasket and the country falls under a coup or all communications are down, there's a plan to meet, we call it a universal communications plan, where every Wednesday, the first of every month, we will be at that place until you're there. So even if the country doesn't exist anymore, there's going to be a place to meet. There's always a plan. It's all about preparation. So in many cases when I was apprehensive, something was going to happen, there are examples in my book where things weren't always going according to plan. I knew, yes, it would be a little complicated to miss a meeting for them and for me, but there was a plan in place. So it wasn't going to be a complete disaster.
With the technology the way it is today, are we relying more on that and less on human intel, and is that harmful in your view? I
think there will always be technical collection of intelligence.
I'm sorry.
There will always be a collection of intelligence through technical means, through satellites, etc. Absolutely. But the human interaction will never go away. The importance of human intelligence, where I'm talking to you and pulling out what's in your brain, what your thoughts are, what your emotions are. You can't get that from satellites or any kind of technical collection. You can maybe get what you're writing down if we see that. But what are you thinking, Peter? That's what we're going to pull out. And that's what's important. So the role of human intelligence in operations is never going to go away. 100 years from now, it'll be still in some form of value. And I would say that it's the best job in the world because it's so interesting to see what somebody's thinking and how can you pull that information out, and how do you're able then to determine, is that person telling me the truth or not?
Claire, Kyle, Eric, Alexis Ann, and Katrina, the 5 kids.
Right.
Did Claire, being the oldest, did she ever ask you why you were going away at 2 a.m. in the morning? And
she didn't. She did find out where I worked before the other kids did. She was in middle school, I believe. But she didn't ask. The kids all thought their mom was just going to work.
So she was in middle school, so you were still active when she found out. How did she find out?
It was an interesting story. She was very good friends with the daughter of my chief at the time. And Claire was over at her house, and they saw there was a piece of artwork. It was a compass rose made of mosaic pieces that is symbolic of the agency, kind of reaching out to all directions. So Claire saw that artwork, and we had the same piece of artwork that my boss gifted me. So at that, and Claire noticed that. Claire says to her friend Catherine, "Oh, that's interesting. We have the same piece of artwork." Catherine said, "Well, my dad and your mom work together. They both work for the CIA." That's how Claire found out. She was, "Oh, okay, interesting." Didn't change really how she treated me or acted around me, because the kids, they just do their thing. They're all having their life, going to parties and play dates, and it was just another job.
Did you have to counsel her about talking about that?
I did. I did. She didn't realize the gravity of what CIA meant, but as soon as I told her not to talk about that, don't talk about mommy's work, she understood.
When did you come out to all your kids?
So the other 4 learned the day before my retirement party at headquarters. And that's because I wanted them to come to my retirement party, and I wanted them to be able to come into the building, walk across the seal, and see where I had worked all these years. So that's when I told them.
And
their reaction?
Yeah.
They thought it was interesting. They thought it was neat. But again, I think they just thought it was mom's work. It wasn't until they were older, because they were all in middle school, elementary school at the time. As they got older, they realized it was a big deal. That where I worked was not where a lot of moms worked. And the kind of work we did, they understood more the importance of it.
How often, when you were overseas, were you armed? And did you teach your kids basic security?
So there was one tour where I carried a Glock for the entire tour. And my kids knew that, of course, because I would go out to the range regularly to practice. It was just another important thing that I did. The kids knew, but that every parent should teach their kid basic principles of personal security. They knew that I was cautious. My husband was cautious. It was just the way that we were anyway. And it was important for them to understand, be aware of your surroundings. My husband always says to the kids, even today, keep your head on a swivel.
My work was constant, you write, every minute of every day. I couldn't afford to rest or let my guard down. It was as though I couldn't take a break. I had to be ready to take advantage of any situation that presented itself. Everything I said and did had to be said and done with forethought. Every interaction had to be measured and carefully examined. Nothing could be taken for granted.
Right.
Do you trust people? Did this job make you paranoid?
No, it didn't make me paranoid. No, it didn't. The job made me that sentence that you just read was my entire life from the time I started with the agency. Because when I'm meeting people, and it's my job to find the right people, of course I had to constantly determine, are they talking to me because they want to talk to me? Or are they somebody that I could maybe recruit? So always looking, always watching, always listening. Even people I was trying to recruit, I constantly had to determine if they were telling me the truth. Are they the same person that I met with yesterday or the day before? That's from a work standpoint. Constantly planning, I'm going on a trip. I'm going to go meet with somebody for lunch, for work purposes. What am I going to say? What am I going to respond? What am I going to do afterwards? How am I going to get the next meeting? Then I've got this family that I'm constantly having to plan how I'm going to help them get through the day of school, or how are they going to get from here to there, or how are we going to take them to the doctor's appointment? Or so everything had to be planned. Every minute was taken up with some important decision.
Do you think during these years Joe was the primary parent?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that we were definitely parenting together, because kids need both parents. And I provided certain things that Joe couldn't, and vice versa. He was 100% there with me, but it's more than just being physically present. You have to. There were things that as a mother I could provide my kids. Joe as a father could provide them certain things better. It took both of us.
9/11. Where were you?
I was in Europe, Central Europe.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what was that? What happened that day?
So being overseas was very different, I think, than Americans that were in the U.S. or they were living in the U.S. at the time. So we found out about it. It was later in the day, obviously. It was in the mid-afternoon with a time change, and I was in the office. There was a huge commotion in the office. People were running to the conference room. So this was quite a few years ago, obviously, and we didn't have news on our desks and on the screens on our desks. So everybody's running to the conference room where the TV's on. Nobody knows what's going on. All of a sudden, I look up, and that's when the second airplane hit the towers, and people are aghast. Nobody really knows what's going on, but we're all scurrying around. What's happening? What's happening? And being overseas, being in an embassy, when something's going on, something terrible is going on in the U.S., it obviously affects everybody. Everyone's scared. Management's trying to control, what's happening. I run back to my desk, call Joe, who was working in his office across the city. He turns on the television where he is and sees what's happening. First thought was to protect the kids, get back home, which in hindsight, maybe we should have stayed at the embassy, but we were concerned about our kids. We go back to the school, we get the kids out of school, we get to the house, and then things start, all the news, we're looking at the news, watching the news. My biggest concern at the time was my brother, who was working as a NYPD officer, who we couldn't reach. But nobody could reach anybody in the States at the time. Ultimately, after many hours, I learned that he was safe, but he was down at ground zero at the time. He was working hard. So as the days went on and things became more clear what was happening, we were told, and again, security overseas for Americans working overseas is very, very, they take it very seriously. And of course, we had the Marines that were surrounding the embassy that were protecting us. But we had to really stay under the radar, much more than in America. And I remember watching on the news all the flags waving and people really coming together as a country. But overseas, we were told to just be cool, chill, because we didn't want to highlight that we were Americans. No one knew what was happening next. No one knew if there was going to be another attack. So we kind of had to stay discreet. Over time, the school, we were at an American school, again, being overseas, they put guard dogs at the front with soldiers with AK-47s for protection. It was an incredibly intense moment personally. At work, all hands on deck to try to find out who the perpetrators were and to counter and to be certain there weren't going to be any other attacks. That was the big concern, obviously. Where would it happen next? Would it be overseas? Would it be in the U.S.? So every CIA officer everywhere, and analysts and case officers, everyone, we were all focused on looking for the who the perpetrators were and what would happen next if anything did.
Back to your book, Wife, Mother, Spy. We strive to raise our children with the proper morals, to know right from wrong, and to always tell the truth. Yet my profession required that I lie when necessary. I had to be able to lie with confidence and conviction, to be deceptive, to skirt the truth. I also had to know when it was acceptable to lie and be able to understand when it was entirely wrong to do so. I hid what I did for a living. What do you mean by when to lie?
That is really, it's something that a case officer or officers in the agency have to really understand, because I'm trying to recruit someone. They're a foreigner. I'm trying to get access to intelligence. I'm not going to tell them my real name if I don't want to, or if I'm working an alias, for example. Is that lying? I guess you could say it's lying. I'm not telling them my true name, but it's for a reason. The reason is to get to keep them secure and safe, to keep me safe, to keep my family safe. And is that important that they know my real name? No, of course not. Do they need to know details about my children? If I'm asked, do I have